Hello, everyone. Let's see. Just play the song. Here we go. Hello, Layne.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Layne Smith Brown with me tonight. We just made it. We were so nearly locked out of Facebook because they penalize us if we start late. So we made it. Technology. Layne, welcome. Love talking to you. Uh, so we're going to be talking a little bit about our book, which is coming out very soon.
Yes.
And it's called Trauma to Triumph, and it has our real stories and our best lessons in. And I've been saying to people up to now, don't buy. Like, who says that? But I've been saying to up to now, don't buy, because I'm going to drop the price, and I've just dropped the price today. So now we're saying you can buy. Go
Cool.
ahead and buy. It's dropped to $2.99, $2.99, and it's worth every cent of it, every penny. Layne, your chapter is very powerful, and I've got an amazing quote from it, which is, it's like one of those basic life skills that people just don't think about. And when you actually start reading it, you go like, what? How did I not notice this before? Can I read it?
Absolutely.
Okay, welcome everyone. I hope you're going to enjoy this. I know this is going to be good. Okay, here we go. If we could all get from 2 to 42 without being influenced by so many disconnected people, it would be easy to see. But most of us have had our connection to our infinite wisdom blurred. That's okay. The clues on how to get back are just below the surface, and we are going to scratch at it until we get to the truth of who we are and the possibilities of why we are here. Okay, so I will continue reading from there, but I just thought, you know what? That whole sentence is so powerful because people forget who we left behind. People are so focused on surviving today and our hurts and what we need and what we need to protect and who we have to keep out and how to make a living, that we actually forget how many little things of who we really are we lost along the way.
Yes. I mean, for me, this was how I was able to deal with whatever I went through. I needed to get to this place where there was a level of trust in myself, that there was something that I had been connected to. Because I had these little clues as a young kid that didn't resonate with the environment that I was in. Like, there was these little bits of truth that were getting in, and it didn't make sense when you're 5, but it also left a mark that then when I was 13 I could go back to and remember. Like, it's just these little tiny clues that remind you that there is something bigger out there, because I believe when we came into the world, we had all that connection, and then it got educated out of us based on the environments that we were growing up in. So there's all kinds of people telling you you're not magic, that you're not connected to source energy, that life is hard, relationships are hard, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, you're
And
not good
so,
enough as you are, which is, I think, the biggest one of all.
yeah, you're a disappointment. You're not worth listening to. All of those different things.
You're acceptable to me if you are the version of you that I need in order for me
Yes.
as a parent to feel okay about being your parent.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're
But,
triggering all of my pain. So if you could just
yeah.
shut up and do what I tell you, everything's going to be okay.
Layne, I quickly
Okay.
just want to
Yeah.
check my volume because I
Okay.
can't hear you properly. And if I can't hear you properly, I don't want,
Okay.
oh, it's me. It's not you. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. Now I want to make sure that the sound is good because, I don't want anybody to miss one word because every word is really important when we talk about these because there's tiny little meanings in every word.
Yeah. Like, so all of the negative stuff, every lick of it, every negative message you heard about yourself growing up is a lie.
Mm.
That's where you need to get to,
Mm.
and then build from there. I say this often in my work. It's like we have generations of disconnected people raised by disconnected people, raised by disconnected people. It goes back decades and generations. And then we expect to be left whole based on how they raised us. It can't work that way because they're raising you in their pain. Doesn't justify what happened. It doesn't diminish what happened. But if you can't get yourself to a place where you're willing to admit to yourself that there is more for you in remembering the back to the truth of this, then you're just going to keep spinning and keep getting lost in other people's opinions and agendas.
I love how you say, because this is an amazing approach for anybody to take. Just accept that everything that came from somebody else that have diminished you in any kind of way is a lie. Like, if you do
Yeah.
that and you just basically decide, okay, I'm rather attached to this thought, or I don't quite believe that I can think more about myself, want more of myself, for myself. But let me just chuck it all out. Let me leave a blank slate here and start building. And then that word that you use quite a lot, which I love, it's become curious about what's really going on. I mean, that whole idea about curiosity, about ourselves, about other people, that curiosity is an amazing, powerful tool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a logic to my approach here of discounting everything because you just have to look at the people who are guiding you and go, is this how I want my life to turn out? Do I want the disintegrating relationships or the um, the hopelessness or whatever was presented to you? Because somebody who is connected and whole and in love with themselves, they will raise you completely differently. So if you want to be the one who's connected and whole, then you need to get guidance from people who are feeling connected and whole. And the miracle of this is if you can find a way to go inside of yourself, you are that person. But
Our
it may
problem,
takes, go ahead.
our problem is the person who listens right now and go like, no, that's not my parents. My parents were lovely people. They were beautiful, God-fearing, state obedient citizens who did the right thing out of love for us as children. A lot of us are completely normalizing what went on. And because as children, we have to normalize it and we have to find a way to be happy and get through it. That's like we have no other choice as children. That's what we have to do. But this weekend I talked to Dr. Laurie Weiss, who is an inner child expert and one of the pioneers who started her work 40 years ago. And I asked her if she and her husband was codependent because she comes from a very happy, nurturing, loving family. And she laughed. And she said, yes, because she was trained to be codependent by these lovely, beautiful people. Be a good girl. Go and get your husband. Go and study, but don't think about working. Go and get a husband. He will take care of you. You be like this. You depend on him. You laugh at his jokes. You give him his food on time. That's where we are coming from. I mean, how do we change those belief systems in 2 generations? How much of it's still sitting inside? Because I'm an emancipated woman. I have great respect for my husband's part in the relationship, but I'm not underneath him. But I feel so bad if I don't cook the meal. I feel so bad. And I would hardly ever say to him, will you sweep there, please? He's like, really? Now, how? What? It's that conditioning. Like she said, I was trained to be codependent from a beautiful, that generational training is still so deeply ingrained in us.
Yeah. A lot of that is I find for myself that, like, I'm speaking specifically to how women were raised, right? In what is anticipated roles, which is connecting to this. But this whole idea of misogyny and like everything that's kind of coming up as mainstream topic right now, because I'm the age that I am, I'm still, my mind is getting blown by people who are, say, 20 years younger, who are speaking to this more clearly. And I'm just going, I'm a pretty confident, out there kind of person. I don't live a traditional life. I don't have a traditional relationship. There's all kinds of stuff I didn't buy into. But still, I know that there are lies in my mind about what is my role in showing deference in certain situations, keeping my mouth shut in certain situations, even though it's in conflict with who I have become. I have been conditioned to do those things. So for me, it's like constantly educate yourself, expose yourself to people who have different ideas than you do. This is my whole thing with curiosity. We've just learned to, oh, well, if they don't agree with me, I'm going to turn that off. I don't need to hear that. I don't need to be exposed to that idea. You do need to be exposed to these ideas, because you never know the nugget you're going to hear that is going to open a door for you. You know, so it's like this whole idea of staying in our separate silos, staying not questioning a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, if you grew up in a really strict culture, strict religion, I mean, it was not encouraged to ask questions. It was not encouraged to challenge, because that doesn't keep that institution whole. So if nothing else, is learn to ask more questions and expose yourself to people who have ideas that on face value you think, oh, I don't agree with them, and just listen. They've come to their conclusions for a reason, and maybe there's something in there for you.
I like, if we can add to this, the idea of becoming curious about yourself. What more is there? What is it that I have forgotten? What is it that I have left behind? Who was I really? You know, that curiosity about the excitement about what can happen. My favorite question is, what if?
Yeah, I mean, there are little clues that you have in front of you. It's usually tied to things that you have a very strong negative reaction to, or a very strong positive reaction to. It's almost these polar things, that there is a nugget of what it is you came in that was going to be important to you this time around. I don't actually think that this is just the first time or the last time that we're going to be here. This is the life that we have right now. And we came in with an intention, and our subconscious mind has these clues. There's all kinds of stuff overriding that because of the training that we had. But it's like, what lights you up? What are the things that you're drawn to doing? What are the things that, like the injustice of something, you know? It's like, for me, you know, I mean, everybody's got their own opinions and everybody's entitled to how they interpret this. But for me, that's where I found the clue. I was taught to be invisible. I was taught that I wasn't worth listening to. I was taught that I just needed to shut up, be quiet, sit in my room. I didn't need to interact with anybody. Well, okay, so it trashed my self-esteem. But where do I find I'm making my living? I'm making my living using my voice, showing other people that they shouldn't be invisible. They're not meant to be invisible. They're meant to be seen. They're meant to shine, right? So when we are caught up in still living out from that disconnected message that we got growing up, that's the stuff you need to be looking at, because there's hope in that, right? You get that little inkling and it's like, oh, maybe I actually was connected to something. early on, and I can get that back. You can fix that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
kind of.
if you walk around with a lot of victimhood and judgment and blame, then your life is desperately screaming at you to become aware of something. It's like you say, you have a strong reaction. It's positive or negative. But that whole, when you've grown and accepted all of who you are, which is where we want to go, right? To grow into yourself and to accept the fullness of who you actually are and enjoy it and celebrate it. When you get to that point, you don't have victimhood anymore, and you don't have blame anymore, and you don't have judgment anymore. They vanish like mist in the sun.
Yeah, I mean, it's that you spend this big chunk of your life trying to be whole based on all of these lies. You're trying to make this work. You're trying to find your way based on all of this stuff that is in conflict and in contradiction with what your heart knows is true. And then all of a sudden it's like for me, it was almost a light switch or a flip that happened where I could just see it. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why have I made them the authority? Now, this is hard to do when you're 7 and 8 years old. You're not thinking quite that critically. But at some point, you're 20, you're 21, and you're just going, this does not make sense, you know? And then it's I don't know, for me, it just, that opened the door. Like when I learned that I could make that one distinction, then all of a sudden I could build back into myself stuff that meant something to me, stuff that smacked more of truth. And I was also in that moment like able to forgive what had happened, because it is that disconnected people raised by disconnected people raised by they didn't have the tools.
Strangely, sorry, Layne. Like for you, I had my one of my earliest lessons to waking up to what's really going on, where I learned to start challenging, was also a religious lesson, because coming from, you've got to wear pantyhose and a hat to church, otherwise you don't go to heaven. So I was probably about 14 and 15, all of a sudden we didn't have to wear hats to church anymore. Now, that's a bit of a shock to your system, but that's not the biggest shock to my system that I had. Was somewhere in this time, because I live in South Africa, and a black person couldn't sit in the same church as me. That was just how it was. There's a black church and there's a white church. And Indian people were not even allowed in my province, so I didn't even have any interaction with them. So very farming, insular kind of growing up. Good, honest, fantastic, loving people going according to what the church is saying and the government is saying. And the next minute, anybody can go to church. And I lost my confidence in the people that run the churches, because I thought, you guys cannot do this. You cannot come to me one day and say to me, wear a hat, you're not going to, otherwise you're not going to. Now don't have to wear a hat, now wear. And then, no, I don't know where the black people are, but they're not in church with you, because somehow that's wrong. But the next day it's now right again. When you have people chopping and changing, I mean, there's so many examples of this. I lost my faith in the church structure. I didn't lose my faith. I lost my faith in the church structure that time, because you can manipulate that. And like, this is what I say to people so often. 120 years ago, if a woman was reading a Bible, she was called a witch and she was stoned. So all kinds of beliefs, whether it's governments or whether it is the church or whether it is your school, they are supposed to bring you up to be a free-thinking, responsible person, not a little carbon copy of what they think is working for them. All these systems are designed to make us not think. That's the problem.
Absolutely. This is a version of outsourcing your divinity, right? You're looking to others to tell you how you feel. how you should think, how you should process, how you should live. And it's like, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with observing and seeing, oh, I like that, and I don't like that, and I will take that into me. I mean, we're influenced, good and bad, right? And you can choose the good stuff. But I mean, I sat in a very similar situation, and I'm going, so God is love, but only people that look like me and believe like me are going to go to heaven, and heaven's an actual place, right? And you're going to suffer all kinds of things while you're in this life, and then you're going to be rewarded after. Okay. And I'm just sitting there as a little kid going, so somebody that's living on another continent and doesn't ever hear the exact message that I heard that ensured that I was going to go to heaven doesn't get to go to heaven. And it's like, but God is love. So, it's like all those, they seem like really simple questions, but those are the things, those moments in your life where it's kind of cracked the veneer. Go in there, because there's something there for you. And it doesn't mean you have to toss the things that feel good to you. I've never felt at home in a church. It's like the hair on the back of my neck would stand up when I was really, really little. This is not a place for me, but I found a lot of people find community there. So I'm not discounting all of this, throwing it all out, but you need to think critically of what it is you're taking in, and don't just believe what the leader is telling you because it's the leader telling you. You still need to own what's going on in your head. You still need to decide whether this is worth taking in. This is the whole idea of critical thinking, which is what transformation is all about. It's based upon questioning what is working for me and what is not working for me. I get to decide.
Well, I think if we start with our children and we start right there, allowing expression of views, and not, right there, that's where we squish it. And if we think all the biggest changes, the biggest advances in life is always made by free thinkers. It's never, nobody who is a follower make important, sweeping, improving changes ever. It's always a free thinker who goes like, no, I'm so convinced that I have such passion for this that I am willing to stand up and show this to people. And you can't get there because, I quote The Road Less Traveled, F. Scott Peck, all the time. You don't have a single belief that is yours until you have examined every single one. That was my biggest freedom, to understand that I don't have to believe what other people are believing. I don't have to follow necessarily my parents or my community or anybody else is doing. I have to examine my own thoughts and see if they're fitting for me.
Yeah, unless you are deliberately questioning stuff, you are still living someone else's life. They're telling you everything about yourself, the stuff that should make you uncomfortable, the stuff, like you name it, right? So it is that. It's like, why do I keep doing this? Like, why do I have to wear dress to church?
So let's talk about authenticity. So I keep on interrupting you.
It's all right.
Because I want to talk about authenticity, because this leads to authenticity. Because authenticity is the antidote of following everybody else, is scanning the room. What is that people need from me? Let me fit in with them. Let me not stand out. Because I work with adult-child syndrome, inner child healing. A very big part of adult-child syndrome, one of the biggest traits is that we don't feel like we belong. And because we feel we are different, we inherently believe something inside is off and I need to hide it. And if people see it, they will totally reject me. And that, like, slightly not feeling like I fit into the world and not quite knowing how to do it. And the solution is so simple if we know it, but we can't know it because we've not been brought up by people who knew it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be raised up as a society.
Yeah.
So the solution is authenticity. The solution is being who you are. The solution is relaxing into yourself, because you yourself is already amazing. You just don't know it.
Yeah. There's a line that I use. It's like, you're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand out. You're unique. But we are being raised by people who just want you to keep your head down and assimilate, because they've learned that that was the safest way to get through their life. And so, I mean, I have a sister who wanted her kids to be popular in school because she was bullied as a kid. But I find in when I look back on my schooling, it was the odd kids that ended up having these fabulous lives, because somehow they knew that this is who I am. I'm not going to hide this. And I don't care if you don't accept me for this. Someone will someday. And until then, I accept me, right? That to be raised by people that are actually comfortable with that would be a really, really cool thing, but it's the oddness in us that is actually the seed to what it is we're here to do. The stuff that interests us,
Yeah, maybe the uniqueness of who we are. Instead of judging ourselves nearly by saying that we are odd, celebrate it and call it unique.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to redeem those words that I don't actually think odd is a negative term. I don't think weird is a negative term. My company is Weird Hummingbirds, right? It's like weird means that it didn't fit in with what everyone else was doing. You didn't conform, right? Yeah. But we think we interpret weird as being something you don't want to do. You want to avoid that at all costs, because you don't. I mean, there's this conflict with the fact that we are meant to be in community. That is just a natural thing. We want to be part of the tribe, or whatever we call it, that keeps us safe. And that need for safety is real, right? But somehow inside of that, there is still room for us to be who it is we are, right? So, just getting to the truth of that. And I mean, it takes some confidence, it takes some practice, but to be able to start asking more and more questions that start to reveal that's where the power is.
I've done pottery classes for kids for a long, long time. And of all the classes that I've taught, I've only once had a class of matrics come in and say, I want my pot to be different from the others because I am different. I am unique. I am special. My pot's going to be special. Those are the words those kids were using. So this is a school, I think it's Redlands on the Natal North Coast, who brings up children to believe that, to say that, to walk in, to claim that, and to say, I'm unique. My pot's going to be unique. It's not going to be the same as everybody else's. I just love it. If we as a society all begin to embrace our uniqueness, then we all become authentic. Then the games can stop. We don't have to hide who we are. We can just be who we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm noticing this, and I have friends who are like sort of 25 to 35. I've gotten to know them well, and they don't struggle in the same way that we do in finding identity. They have been either raised by people who did the work that we're doing in finding ourselves at a later age, and those parents then made that part of how they parent. But these kids are getting exposed to more ideas that are saying, yeah, it's the ones that didn't fit in that are actually carving a path and moving us to a better place, right? So they're getting validated. And I love it. I love that they're not getting attached to mortgages and owning houses and property. They seek freedom more than constraint. they're not falling into traps of having a steady job and having a steady paycheck and working for weekends. There's so many cool things that are happening as a result of that. It's not everybody, but there's a lot, right? Gives me a great deal of hope for what's happening kind of 30 years, 40 years behind me. You know, this is how we could have been at an earlier age, right?
I still see way too many kids. If a kid comes to me, it's always self-esteem.
Yeah. Oh,
Still not fitting in, really having social anxiety, having fears for the future. And I see way too many young people
yeah.
who haven't received that guidance and nurturing because their parents didn't have it.
Yeah.
So if when I speak on a summit or something or a podcast to a group of entrepreneurs, it's a little bit different. It's like they lap up this idea. It's because first we like, how's everybody else doing it? How do you get on Facebook, and what kind of ads do you have to do, and what kind of emails do you have to? So it takes a while before we develop. This is who I am. Like, I'm just showing up. This is me. Hello. and and if I swear, I swear, and if something drops, I pick it up because I'm human, and if the internet goes off, tough luck. I can't help for everything in this world. So it takes a while before you find your style and you settle into yourself and you just go and you enjoy it. And it's just that thing that I think everybody can learn from entrepreneurs. If you arrive and you do it differently from everybody else because you do it the way you do it, then you find your right tribe. Your tribe will is the ones who need you. They will resonate with what you say. Now, I can explain this in a business kind of thing, idea, but then we have to take that and we've got to take it to our lives. And it's so true, Layne. Since I'm just relaxing about who I am and I don't have all these barriers and I'm not so worried about hiding everything and not letting people in, I have this amazing circle of people around me. And I've never had that before when I was so careful about not showing the real me. So your life expands when you relax into you.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you're falling into the plan. It's not necessarily a plan, but you're falling into another way of expressing yourself. I mean, I'm in the same world that you are when it comes to, trying to create awareness of what it is I have to offer. And I can get hoodwinked into, I have to do this and I have to do that. And I've just made a commitment and I keep having to recommit because you're inundated with all these different ideas. It's like, no, I am going to spend the majority of my time practicing getting into my heart, listening to what it is Layne, needs to do right now. And for a linear thinker like me, it can be it can be a little difficult, but I just keep reminding myself that you carve your own path. Other people will follow you there because other people are feeling what it is you're feeling. But when you start to make this a game of manipulation and how do we make this happen, it's like, well, I guess you can do it. And if you're selling widgets, that works, I suppose. But it's like you need to be authentically you. And people who desire to be authentically them will connect.
And then we have to take the same rules and we have to apply it to our relationships, because business rules and how we deal with our children and our family and our relationships, they are all the same rules. If you show up real, who you really are, it's easier for everyone. If you edit who you are, or if you try and fit in, sooner or later, this thing is going to stop working. And if you have never formed your own beliefs, one day you're 49 and you go like, who am I?
Yes.
Yeah. That's my email today was, who am I even really?
Yeah.
It's not English. It's not English.
Yeah. I mean, I often think, I didn't raise kids. So I have no parenting experience. I have a lot of people with little kids in their life, and I watch the struggle, right? Because you want your kids somehow to have an easier time than you did, perhaps. That's what it, and I just find for myself, if my parent had just sat down and went, I'm trying to figure this out too, like, I'm going to screw up. I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm trying to guide you, but I don't want to squish you, right? That candid thing, like, we think as parents or as adults that we have to have it all figured out. And in that candor with the person who's coming up behind you, actually knows probably more than you, but technically they're coming up behind you. That level of connection and honesty would be a powerful way to allow them to also go into the world that way. You don't always know everything, right? And you don't always do things correctly, but it opened the door to that. It's the apology, or it's just the awareness that we're all in this to learn something from each other.
Everybody really should do a course in self-awareness, learning how to communicate properly, because otherwise we are just perpetuating this over and over. I want to check it out again. First of all, I don't see enough hearts here. People, I love you. I love our audience. They are amazing. But I'm really happy when I see a lot of hearts there. So it's a little bit late to ask, but I just want to make sure, can everybody hear us properly? I should have asked her right at the beginning. So a little bit late, but please just make sure. And let me go to the comments and quickly go and see who's here. Can you say hi, and then so that we can know who we are talking to. Hi, Midge. You're hearing us. Thank you for letting me know. That's great. All right. And then I want to ask a big question. How do we fix it if we are not feeling authentic? Like a very simple, clear answer. Where do you start, Layne?
I think you need to build that confidence inside of yourself first. I think if you're not feeling that authentic power, but you try to act like you are, that's where we get into all kinds of trouble. And I think that to be able to allow yourself some time to do your healing work, to start being curious about what's going on, to start finding ways of helping yourself move forward in all of this, until you see the truth of it. How I was saying earlier, it's like, just believe everything was a lie. Just come to that conclusion for yourself. Well, that's part of it, right? You also have to believe that you can access the truth. And so you think, you've learned that stuff for 30, 40, 50, whatever, how many years. It's not just like, oh, boom, I got it. Now everything's fixed, right? So I've always been the kind of person who, I'll keep some of this stuff to myself for a while till I really, really feel that it's integrated in me. I own this. This has become me. And then start to build on that. Because keep in mind that when you start to awaken, when you start to question, all of the people around you who haven't done this work are triggered, because there is a part of them that is also being called to awaken, and you're showing them that they're still sleeping. That is very uncomfortable for them, right? And they will do everything in their power, usually, to try to pull you back to your sleeping state. You are awakening for a reason. So get yourself into a place where there's a level of confidence, and then keep building on that. But don't throw yourself out and be just super vulnerable, because it just doesn't always work well for you.
Yeah, I think you do need, most of us need a bit of help to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I've done is, with our book, I've taken from all the chapters, I've taken two, I tried to find two really good, strong concepts in every author's book.
Okay.
And put it in there. So it's for everybody. You can go, you don't even have to buy the book. You can just go and click on the front matter, and you'll see somewhere in the first few pages, there's a giveaway of 25 strong questions. If you go and sit and you just work through these questions, so there's two from every author, and you go through them, by the time you're done with those questions, you will already have some insights. It's a great place to start. Also, you know what, Layne, I think this book, and you haven't read it from to the beginning. I've been lucky. I've read every chapter, several times. It's called editing. Proofreading. Proofreading, another round of proofreading. So, and we'll find a mistake the minute it is printed. That's going to happen. But everyone, I mean, our speakers, our summit speakers has been so awesome, and everybody brought these stories, and now they've done what they've done is they've went even further. They put it into their best helper. They've broken it down. If you go through that book slowly, not fast, chapter by chapter, you really reflect about all these things, and you can see, how can I start integrating? This whole entire book is a process of awareness making, of looking at different ways to see life, to understand you are not your beliefs, you are not set in your thoughts. There is a different way. I love collaboration. 25 questions, 12 chapters by different people, and they absolutely best, sterling, amazing, thought-provoking advice. I think that's a great place to start for anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, if we tell our stories to show that you are not alone. It's all universal. We may have had different traumas growing up. They might have a different label, but they impacted us because they started showing us a way to discount what it is we know to be our own truth, right? Everybody's had that experience. Some traumas seem like big T traumas, and some seem like little T traumas. It really depends on the kid. Don't discount whatever you've experienced, but if you're feeling like there needs to be a solution, then start with something like this, a book of a whole bunch of people's stories about how they got through. It's a practical approach to just kind of getting an introduction to this work, if this is new. And if it's not new, you're still going to be able to go deeper.
Because all books are not equal, unfortunately. Some books are fairly fluffy. So all books are not equal. You've got to, we're lucky our parents didn't have this level of help out there.
Oh, yes.
Even the really good books. Although I have to be honest, Laurie Weiss's book sold has been selling her books for 40 years, and Karen Casey's first book sold 4 million. So that was 40 years ago. They just didn't get the traction was lost here somewhere in the middle, and here we sit and we don't know about all this inner healing stuff. And now after these 2 horrendous years, we're going like, let me call it horrendous because it was actually amazing in so many ways. And we go like, we need to start looking at trauma. And now we can actually go find those books and the new books that are there. And start with that and find podcast or find somebody on YouTube or just start looking for somebody who provokes your thinking. That's, if you find somebody who thinks the same as you're thinking already, no. Find somebody who gets you thinking.
You want to be uncomfortable, because that's when the growth happens. If whatever you're reading is not challenging you, is keeping you comfortable in what it is you believe, it's mind candy. You need something that actually goes, oh, I do that. Oh my goodness, that's what that's from, right? Oh, now I can see it. And I can choose a different outcome. But that becomes, it's an uncomfortable thought first. It's antagonistic, right? Until you start to acclimate to what that change is, right? It will be uncomfortable. So my rule of how I make those decisions is, whoever I'm hearing or whoever I'm reading, I need to resonate with them. That's an internal judgment that it's like, I like the way that I like their use of language. I like where they come from. I like where, but then it's like, then dive in. Then if you've come to this conclusion that energetically, I like what this feels like for me, then do the work. If they're challenging you, take up the challenge.
Have you got a copy of Weird Hummingbirds near you?
I do. Give me a second.
Okay, I will check our copies for them.
Woo. That's it.
Hi, Alex. Nice seeing you. I haven't seen you on live for a while. I hope you're not dying still of a heat wave. Can you hear my fan? Tonight I didn't switch it off. Tell me if my fan is bothering anybody, please. Even my frogs are quiet. Okay, show us. Show us, Layne.
All right. I don't know if you can see that.
No, not
Lighting's
really.
not great. No.
Another really great book. Yeah, it's an amazing book. I love that book. It's also thought-provoking. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. In fact, a lot of our co-authors have got their own books. Like every one of Elsa's books are thought-provoking. Victoria's got books out. Everybody's. I'm going to get in trouble now. Let me stop speaking. Because you can't mention one. If you mention one, let me see if my fan is bothering anybody. No. Okay, great. Hi. I've got it on full blast. Thank you. Okay. All right. Is there anybody who has any questions about how to settle into your authenticity, or who's struggling with belief systems that they've inherited and that they are either not only recently started noticing or really don't know how to let go of? You've got a chance now to ask us any questions. We don't mind any questions, right, Layne?
No problem.
Because if you have no questions, it's also fine. You can just leave us some hearts and then go read our book. That's also fine. Okay, so I want to get a copy of an image of our book. There. I'll come back now and check for if there's any questions. Here's our book. Okay.
That's right.
It's our book. I'm going to see if we have any questions. And where is that? Questions. Right. Okay. There we go. All right. And okay, so if we're going to sign off now, wait, there's a question or something. What? Yeah, it's absolutely. Oh, that's just what I wanted to say. You're right. It's ongoing. You know what I was going to say is this. Part of this whole growing experience is us sooner or later making peace with the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable. In the uncomfortableness, in that moment when you really don't like it. You don't have to like it. But if you start making peace with the fact that this is just what I need to go through, there's no butterfly if you don't go through that other stage. You've got to go through that stage. You've got to be. And then there's a butterfly. You've got to be chrysalis before you're going to become a butterfly. So if we make peace with the stages and the fact that it's repeating itself and it doesn't end, there's going to be sucky times, but there's going to be blessings in it. And there's going to be people who don't like you changing.
And, yes.
And that's fine too, because when you get better, they will all get better around you eventually. You must just be calm and centered inside yourself and stop reacting to other people. So it's a process. It's the messy middle and shit happens and there's going to be uncomfortableness, and the uncomfortableness is our biggest blessing in the end, no matter how much we don't like it. We can hate it. We can detest it. We can wish it wasn't so. But the uncomfortableness is every single time where our blessing is lying.
Yeah. I mean, learning to offer yourself grace in this process of just going, you're still doing, 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still moving forward. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens when you learn anything, right? You get a little and then you get confused. You get a little farther ahead and you get a little confused, or you get a little disheartened, or whatever it happens to be that knocks you back. Just know that that's natural and normal, because that is just how we process stuff. And then get back on the bus and move it a little farther, right? but grace in that, you're not failing. It's not that this is too hard for you. It's just you're retraining how your brain has been connecting information for decades. It's going to take a minute for that to undo itself. So just stick with it. However you find, whoever you find to guide you there, whatever book you read that is going to challenge you, it's like, just know that you're moving forward.
So my parting thought is this: you are not your thoughts or your beliefs. You are not. Those things can change. Your thoughts can change, your beliefs can change. You are way more than your thoughts and your beliefs. And you can stop believing them, because we're very attached to our thoughts and our beliefs. And you can stop believing them and start from scratch, because that is going to do you so much more positive outcomes in the end. When you let go of everything you believe in, you just start from scratch. And that's a scary thing I'm saying, and no, who does this? But the reason I am where I am today is because I focused so much on building a new belief system, because the old one was painful and it didn't work, and it went around in hamster wheels, and it became excruciating and so self-defeating and with no self-empowerment. And there's a whole set of self-empowering beliefs. Why on earth go for them? It's great to feel self-empowered. So chuck them all out. Let's start again. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that whole idea of you're not recreating yourself, you're remembering yourself, right? This whole process of letting go of all of that misinformation is not that you're going to have to recreate who it is you are. You're simply going to resonate with who you came in as, and that is a feeling that you cannot explain to somebody until you feel it. If you've not felt it yet, it is possible to feel it, but you got to start thinking critically about what's going on in your mind. It's not all the truth.
It's a really important distinction to make. It's not that you have to fix something inside you. You have to fix your belief system. You have to settle into who you are already, because you are amazing. You just don't know it. And remember who on earth you actually are. So not fix yourself, just settle into who you really are. I call it become who you were always supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me check. Any questions there? Let me see. I think we've looked at all the questions. Okay, that's great. Okay. All right, so we are going to remind everyone to please go and look above look there above the video description. We've got the link to our book, and it's now completely safe to buy it because I've discounted it. And go get it. And please, when you get it, don't rush through it. I know you can't wait to get to it. Everyone, but this is not a book to rush through. This is a book to take slowly.
Yeah.
Okay, we do want reviews, but I more want everybody to take their time and read it. That's more important. Yeah. Okay. Layne, thank you so much.
Oh, I love these. I love all the work that you did. I appreciate so much that this is out there. And I just trust that it will resonate with a whole pile of people.
Well, we're going to keep on doing this. I'm going to ask that everybody who watches, and I know that there are more people coming in tomorrow and watching again, and there'll be more people on YouTube later in the week. So I know there are many more people coming in. Please, everyone, just take a link, click on the link, send it to someone. Just help us spread the word so that we can all start living healthier and easier, because somebody needs this desperately. Thank you all for watching, and remember to leave the hearts. We like the hearts. Facebook likes the hearts. Facebook let us show this to more people. The more hearts we get, the more interaction we have. So we love it. Thank you very much for that, and the more shares we get. So until next time, next week, I'm talking to another author, and I'm looking forward to our book being out. Bye bye. Much love all.